Nice if we had an agent one, since it looks a little different,
Right.
like a training one. But
So realty1group.onelogin.com. Now that I've just kicked myself out of it
I don't know why mine was saved in-
because I'm under your profile.
Oh, that's why, okay. Oh, cool.
Because I didn't have a one login in the other profiles and I
Gotcha,
couldn't remember what it
okay.
was.
I don't feel like such a nerd.
Yeah.
You are expert in real estate, not necessarily.
So I would recommend you guys, if you have computers, jump in to Skyslope, but you're going to do it through the one login. And if this is your first time, do not go to the Skyslope tile yet. You have to go into zone. And then over on the left-hand side, connect to Skyslope that way to get them to sync the first time. And then if time passes and it's like a month since you've done it, you'll have to do it again this way. So if you ever try to go to Skyslope, connect direct, and it doesn't like it, that's why you're having to go back to zone and then go in.
It doesn't hurt. You can always go through zone and get to Skyslope too.
Yeah, you
So
can
if-
just do it that
You can do
way.
it that way. But if you're typically going into one login, it's there. And if you can't get into one login because it's been so long, you just have to email help desk. Let me know.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people.
I'm
have
gonna-
talked about that recently.
yeah. I'm gonna get us started here in this just one more minute because I have a hard stop for 2:30 appointment, so we're not gonna be able to go over. So the one,
The same as one login.
say that again.
Is one suite the same as one login?
So you're accessing your one suite through your one login.
But
So,
no.
so when you go to your one login, you'll have maybe frequent apps and then all the other apps. You may have to go to all the other apps to get to Skyslope. If you've done it before, then it'll be under your frequents. And then again, you can't get into one login.
Because you probably haven't been in for so
wonderful.
long. What, is it giving you an error message? Yeah, you're gonna have to email.
Email helpdesk@realty1group.com.
You can't get in at all. If your account's inactive for so long, then it goes on like, for corporate, they put it on like a hold, so it's like deactivates the account.
All right, guys, we're gonna get started because we gotta get this going.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All right, so again, real quick, Realty One login, go to zone. From zone, you're gonna go to Skyslope. So when you hit on zone, Skyslope's over on your left, click on Skyslope, and then it'll open it, and I'm in it like 4 different ways. So I'll close some of those. So you need to make that live connection through zone to get it to work the first time. We cannot log into Skyslope directly ever because we have a Realty One login account. You do not have like an individual account with Skyslope. So you're always gonna be stuck going in this way. My view is a little different because I can see all the transactions. So ignore that piece. Your home screen is gonna look different. We're gonna start with forms. So over here in the top right, you should have an apps login, an apps ability to switch back and forth so you can go into forms. And let's say I'm going to create, I don't know what, whatever, something, we'll come up with something. Let's say a buyer, we're going to work a buyer today. What's that?
I came up with a 17-minute video.
Yeah, it's just because it's the first time you've logged in, so you can.
Should be an X button.
Let's say he's Fred at fred.com. I'm not actually going to send paperwork for him to sign. So initially working a buyer, they may not be under contract yet. So you may not have an address, you know, you're going to do a buyer rep and start working the client, that sort of thing. So you can file him the original paperwork under the client's name to begin with. You do not have to assign a property. Okay. This is not the transaction piece. This is just doing a document in here. So then what's going to come up should be our template. I can see other realty ones in Texas. You guys shouldn't be able to. So you're going to select the buyer template because we had said this is a buyer, so it knows it's a buyer. And you're going to say apply the template. Everybody with me? I feel like nobody's with me.
You're supposed to hit apply template? Is that what
Probably.
you just said?
No, she went into forms first, and then she selected the type of transaction it's going to be for the forms, and then she
Yeah.
selected the template. Yes.
Is anyone not where I am right now? Cheryl?
Mine says, do you have a property yet?
Yeah, keep scrolling down. So I showed you just below that, you can say the client's name instead of the property address. And then you're going to apply the template. It should be ROG P or ROG Prosper Buyer template. My screen showed all the Texas templates. Those don't apply. Who else is
Did you have to put a name in there?
stuck? No, where it says create the name, you're either picking the address or the client name. So if you just select the client name.
Yes, it is required. You have to put something in one of
You
the
just
fields.
click, if you click on the box, it does it for you. So click on the client name. And if you keep scrolling down below that, you should be able to apply the template. Has everyone applied in a template? Okay, all right. I'm trying to think what's the easiest one to do. So we're just going to pick a form. Let's pick our 1 to 4 family. It's going to preset with the buyer's name, whatever you picked when you created the form to begin with. And now it's ready for you to fill in the rest of it. Since I picked a contract, I could say import MLS data because that means I have an address. But on the first page, I said we didn't have an address. So I probably should have just picked a buyer rep, but it doesn't really matter. And then what we're going to do is fill in whatever we need to fill in. I'm just going to put in a couple things. I'm not going to teach you guys how to fill out a contract. And then you can either print it at that point, download it, send it as a PDF, or you're going to do prepare for signature, which is how we're going to use this right now. And we're going to say Fred is the only person we're dealing with. He's the buyer and he's the only one that needs to sign. And because Fred was assigned the buyer role, they know for him to initial and sign the contract. Everybody with me on that? Just like Dalton.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to, because it was my first time, so I had to go through all the setup part. So I'm at template, or, I'm sorry, what was the?
Any other questions?
Once it's filled out, then you go to prepare signature.
Correct. Yep.
I have a question, Carlin.
Go ahead.
All right, so over the weekend, I was doing what you're doing, but I did it under a lease and it would not let me modify anything. It said that the person who was filling out the application had to do all of it.
Correct. On a lease app, you do not fill it out. The applicant will fill it out.
Okay, because I just wanted to add my name and all of that. So, okay, thank you.
So the way to get around that, if you want to create a PDF of an application with your name and number on it already, you can
Okay.
do that, but then you're going to have to create your own template for them to fill out.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
So you don't save it before you prepare it for signature?
No, so saving it, you're either exiting out of it or like if you downloaded it, you would do it that way. But the next step at this point is to get it ready for signatures if we're using this program for the signatures. Okay, so we're gonna hit next. And I probably should have used a real address, email address so that I could get real signature, so show you the rest of it. Okay, so this populates a lot like Dotloop and DocuSign do, where, you know, there are these different functions for signatures. If this was an amendment where it didn't recognize the template, then this is where you would click and drag to add the date for execution or initials or signatures. Does that make sense? But right now, it's seeing the document and it's, what the heck is mine? There it is. There it is. Okay, so you can see it's automatically, because it's a template, it knows that Fred, right there, you see the initials? It's going to be ready for Fred to initial and then sign. I would hit send and it'll go to him to send, but unfortunately I made up an email address, so I can't do that. So I'm gonna go back real quick.
You want us to put mine in and I can sign it?
Yeah, we can. Hold on. Let me go back to my clients.
On these templates, does it automatically know where they need to sign on a page, or do you have to drag and drop a
If
signature?
it's a template, then it knows. So the minute you do like an amendment where there isn't a template, then you're dragging and dropping.
Will it automatically go to the drag and drop screen if you?
It does automatically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll go back there in a
No,
second.
that's fine. I just-
Let me go back. Let me see if I can go edit Fred.
So it's like a flat PDF, like a seller's disclosure, they don't have to assign, but.
You mouse right. past
File
it.
details is where
Click
you're
on
like
the three. Click on the three.
Thank you,
buttons.
Kara.
To the right.
Glad you guys are all working.
Hey, at least we're here. We're
Right?
for it.
No kidding. Oh my gosh, I can't type. Hopefully it won't confuse the crap out of it.
Now it's personal.
That doesn't matter.
Like, I don't use that one.
Let's go back and.
Scott's asking if you can copy and paste like the dot loop. I'm not sure if I understand what he's asking.
Scott, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hey there, so I know in Dotloop you can just do like copy Shift C or Control Shift C and then Control Shift V, which was helpful
for
in doing
signing.
signatures and initials. Can that be done in this program?
You know, I've not tried.
I don't know if that's a shortcut.
I don't think so. No. I just use my mouse to do that. Yeah, I don't think it will, Scott. You're gonna have to click. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on this page before I go send it to myself real quick to sign? So then it's, you know, got an email where you're going to throw in whatever you want to throw in, send it off. So I'll just show you guys what it looks like. Except it's going into Amber's email. And then it shows me as the sender. And it said I had a document to sign. So it'll show you as the sender as the agent. You're gonna agree, this is just like dot loop or DocuSign. And you're gonna hit start. And then you have to click in it and say, this is what I want it to look like. Same thing. Finish. I'm just gonna ignore. I'm gonna go back. Anybody know how to get rid of this stupid bar?
Yeah.
Driving me crazy.
Three dots, and then minimize or hide floating meeting. 2 down.
Thank you. Oh, so much better. Okay, so now this is our Fred file, and under envelopes, it shows completed. And so now I can print it, or I can download the envelope, or I can download the individuals. I would recommend, if you're going to go send this as an offer, that you don't need to send the verified file piece of it. So, like DocuSign and all those have a receipt essentially for the electronic transaction. You do not need those. You just need the actual contract. Make sure you download that. And now you can email it off. The other, huh? Say that again. Somebody said something on here too,
Yes.
so I'm hearing it.
You just pick the individual. That way,
Click on individual.
yeah.
Yeah. So if you do single, then that's going to give you the whole thing that you don't necessarily want. Does that make sense? It'll give you the receipt for it, the certificate.
I've had people send me this.
Yeah.
Use it for a second, like, what is this?
Yeah. Just ignore it. Okay, so let's say we've done that piece, right? Fred signed the offer. Let's just pretend it got accepted and it's an actual contract. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Okay. Now we're going to go in and go over to Skyslope piece, and we're going to create a transaction and put it in there. Okay. So in the top right under apps, that's where you're going to toggle between forms and the transaction. So I just went back to transaction. My homepage on Skyslope looks very different than all of yours. You guys should have a create transaction button. I have to go into manage transactions to go get my button. So now I'm going to go get my button. And it's going to say, hey, I just saw you did an envelope and got a signature. Do you want to use it? And I'm going to go, why, yes, please put Fred in the transaction for me. Now the agent piece is popping up because I'm the broker and I can do all of this for all of you. You guys will not have that option. So on your home page, mine's different than yours. So on the home page, you should have a create transaction button, or it may say manage transactions and then go to create transaction. So in the top right, you need to toggle back to Skyslope from the forms part. So now I'm in transaction. If you attach an MLS number, it will make your life easier and bring information over. However, I don't have one. One is required, but for now, since I don't have one, we're just going to throw that in there. And we're going to sell my house. It's going to make me say the office. You guys will not have that option. The checklist type is going to be buyer, because that's what I just helped him write an offer on, is a purchase. Then you're just fill out a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna say we sold it for 900,000 because that's the only price I'm gonna sell it for. Whatever you put for source in year built, just note that's a Skyslope thing that's making you throw that in there. We don't pay attention to that. So if you connected it to MLS, it's gonna populate the year built. You won't have to fill it out. I really don't care what it says, okay? You can put 000, you gotta put something in there, but we're not tracking that information. Just know if your lead is from Op City or Gold Lead, and you say, yes, it's an office lead over here, we're not paying attention to that either to know whether it's a gold lead or anything special. So those are like Skyslope, whatever things. Okay, so let's say, I'll show you. Why did this come back? Is your, I can tell you why that is, because you're probably in the TC. And so it's not connected to an agent profile. Yep.
Anything red asterisks, you have to put something in. Otherwise, I won't let you move on.
And some of the stuff I don't care about and some of the stuff I do care about. Okay. So now it's going to create basically the initial template for your transaction. However, it does need a few more things. It already knows it's Sarah Smith because we had put Sarah in there. It now wants, it's got my purchaser. It needs a title person. If you know the title at the time, great. I don't know what I'm writing.
So even if we started a transaction with a client and we're not closing in June, we need to be in Skyslope.
So you guys can run your transaction in Dotloop. If you're loving Dotloop, Dotloop's not going away.
Right.
But in order to get the DA going forward, starting tomorrow, we are not looking in Dotloop to see what's closing or to review for compliance. There's no compliance in Dotloop anymore.
Okay.
So at some point, at least 2 weeks prior to closing, you've got to give it to us in here.
Okay.
And I'll show you how to send it over from Dotloop. We'll do that after we get through a basic one.
Okay.
So you're doing this piece to get it moved over at least right now. So again, some things we don't care about. So you can say na@na.com and zeros for phone numbers. Oh, I gotta hit save or it's not gonna let me.
So Carlin, if we want to submit it to y'all, will y'all look at it in Dotloop?
No, ma'am.
Okay. For
No,
the
there's
mentors,
no more compliance in Dotloop at all.
is that the mentors, the compliance?
No, your mentors you're sending to that mentor email.
Okay, and that's it.
Compliance, the compliance is us reviewing it in order to approve it to issue your DA.
Right, right.
That's all
So
going to be Skyslope only.
I haven't submitted anything through the mentor thing yet, so. Okay,
Again, you can. Skyslope likes to track stats, kind of like the government. They just ask for stuff. Okay, so once you put in the basics there, for some reason it doesn't like my buyer. Oh, phone. You're not going to have the phone number. Oh, well, Fred is our client, so you could put Fred's phone number in there. You're not going to have the seller's phone number. Okay, so once that's in there, once it's happy over here, you're going to hit this gold submit button, and it's going to create the checklist. Nope, I lied. It's going to create the commission piece first, and then we'll go to the checklist. Okay. This is the commission tab is where we are going to look to create your DAs. So the minute the sales price changes, this sales price must reflect the correct number for your DA. The commission must reflect the correct commission for the DA. If I put in 3%, it creates 3% over here. If I put in 2.25, it's going to do the math and calculate it over here. If it's some funky number, you know, it's a new construction and the builder's number is not matching our number, you can put in whatever the number is, and it's going to move it over there. Okay, so it's either a percent or a fixed number. But whatever this number is and whatever this number is what's going on the DA. We're not going to go look in the checklist or into the contract paperwork to see, oh, you did an amendment and you did a price reduction, because we're reviewing and accepting paperwork at a totally different time than we're creating DAs. Does that make sense? The other note is where we're going to put the lead information or referral information. This comment box is where we're going to look to see it's a gold lead or Op City or paying the home warranty at 550 for buyers or rebating the buyer, right? Any communication that we need to know that needs to go on the DA is going to go into this commission information commission piece right here. We're going to look right here for whatever we need to know. So this page is the only thing we're looking at for a DA. Does that make sense?
So if there is a price change, we have to just go in there and manually change it.
So the minute you give me the amendment to approve, you want to go change the price.
Sorry, what's the, what's the check?
Oh, good question. So a DA is a disbursement authorization. So it's really called a CDA, commission disbursement authorization. So our goal for all of you that are brand new, our goal is to review your paperwork at least 2 weeks prior to closing. Technically, you're supposed to get it into me within 72 hours of you getting signatures on it. It's supposed to be in there. And we're not talking about listings right now. We're only talking about transactions. We'll talk about listings separately in a minute. And so the minute you go under contract, you need to create it, get it into Skyslope, we'll approve it. And then about 2 weeks before closing, Tracy will create the DA and email it to you. You will review it and approve it, and then email it to title to get payment. And when you send it to title, you can tell title, hey, please FedEx me my check to this address, or please wire the funds to me of this with this information. Don't give wiring information in an email, though, text them or call them. But they will work out how to pay you directly from the closing, and then they'll send us our check based on what the DA says. So that's the quickest way to get paid, but we need 2 weeks prior to closing, unless it's like a cash quick close. That's different. We understand those happen, but we need time to process these. Yes.
We don't have the commission tab.
So did you hit?
You still have to see all these red.
You have to do all
You
the-
have to do everything to get to move on. Yep.
And again, for phone numbers and emails, other than your client, you can just put in na@na.com and zeros. I'm not worried about that. Okay, so once we've put in our commission, now we're going to, don't hit open escrow. If you hit open escrow, it's going to connect to Realty One title companies, which aren't in Texas. I don't know why this is even an option, so you're just going to hit submit. Now it's created the checklist where we need that paperwork. Right now, that paperwork sits under the documents tab because I connected it when I first started this transaction. Does that make sense? So what I connected was the contract we got signed. So again, I'm in the documents tab and I'm going to go assign it. And it's going to say, which in the checklist does this belong to? And I'm going to say it's the 1 to 4 family contract and assign it. And what that does is move it over to the checklist. And if I scroll down, now the checklist is showing pending. You will not have accept and reject. I do because I'm compliant, so I can then accept it. Yours is going to show red pending until Tracy approves it or denies it and rejects it and sends it back to you for issues. Okay. Yep. So because I connected my form, it threw it into documents. Okay. Now let me do something else. Let's say I created my checklist or my transaction in Dotloop. I'm going to forward a PDF right now from Dotloop to Carpenter Hill 270. Does everybody see that? It's skyslope.com. And when I do that, so you can send all your documents over. It's going to be there in a second. Let's hope I type that in right. It's a really long email. Carpenter Hill 270.
Where are you doing that at? In Dotloop? Like, I'm
So
not
for
sure what
those,
you're doing.
it could be Dotloop, it could be anywhere. So
Okay.
for those of you that are doing transactions, there it is. And you want to move them from Dotloop to Skyslope, all you have to do is email them to this address. And every email you send over will go into here in the documents tab.
Okay.
I then can select that document and assign it to wherever it needs to go on my checklist for signature or for approval.
Gotcha.
So let's say that was my buyer rep that I just emailed over. Now my buyer rep is there, ready to go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let's say I sent the whole thing in one file. So I sent the disclosure, the IABS, the general information notice, all of it, all in one file. I can select it and I can hit split. And I can go assign separate pages to the different documents on my checklist.
Is that new?
No.
From the last time we
And
no,
where's
it
the
hasn't.
email address? Is it the skyslope.com?
No. So let me go back right here. The minute you create a transaction, Skyslope creates an email address for it.
Oh, okay.
Each transaction.
Every transaction has its own email. So
Email.
if you have correspondence that you want to keep a log of because your broker has to keep record of everything for 7 years, you can CC all correspondence to this email and it'll all flow into here.
Wow.
Yep. It's very helpful. If something gets rejected, you'll get an email. It'll say reject. I can't remember what color it goes to, yellow or something. I don't know. And then it'll have a little comment. Tracy will put a comment in here, missing initials or whatever it is. And then once she does the DA, she'll attach a copy of the DA here, and then she'll also email it to you. The other thing that's on here that's required is the final CDE, but you're not going to have the CD until the very end. So just keep in mind, you're gonna have to come back in and attach the CD just like you do in .loop. If for some reason, let's say it was a buyer who was buying 2 properties with you and you already gave us the IABS and general notice and wire fraud on a different transaction, you can put a comment in here and say, see 1208 Oak Street or whatever, right? Or you can say see below because it's already attached in another file. And she can look and see and approve it that way. You just have to communicate it, okay? Any questions on this before we talk about listings next? Does anybody is everybody clear on what to do if your transaction's in .loop and how to move it over? Christy, did that help you? Okay. Yep. Okay, so let's go talk about listings. So under listings, you're going to create a listing. We're going to say, we're just going to go grab one I have already. Oh, no. All right, let me just, you do have to add an address. It can look it up so you make sure you do the right address, or you can say switch to manual if it's not finding it. Again, it's going to ask this stuff. It's not going to ask you because it's me. Just ignore. So it knows it's either a lease listing or a regular listing. You're going to say regular listing and you're selling it for 900,000 again. And now you're going to split up the commissions. And we're going to go live today. And expire the end of July. And we don't care about the yearbooks. We don't care where it came from. Okay, so who is our seller? We have Sarah Smith once again. And now we're creating. So it's just like .loop in the sense that you had to put a person in and an address. The easy part is there's no other additional information to fill out right now for the listing. So now this is ready for you to submit to us your listing paperwork. So your listing agreement, the initial seller's disclosure, which is only initialed and signed off by the seller, the general information notice and wire fraud and IABS. Once those are in there, I'm going to go attach something real quick.
So every form we need and everything we need for a listing will automatically pop up in there.
So this is just a template telling you what I need. Had I gone over to the other platform, to the form side, that's where I would have gotten the signatures. And then I would have attached the two. But I skipped that step for this just for time's sake. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no.
Yeah, you're gonna have to for all the one not required.
Yeah. So once you've submitted everything and we approve it, again, you guys can't do what I'm doing right now.
You have to have everything in there and it has to, instead of saying pending, accepted for that to then work.
For this gold button to accept, to click accepted contract. So I'm not looking, and compliance is not looking in listings to create DAs. So once a home goes under contract, we've already approved all the listing paperwork, and now you're gonna say, great, we got a contract. And now you're transferring it from a listing to a transaction. Transactions, just like the buyers, are where we create the DAs. So then here, it's gonna ask for kind of the same info we did before. The only difference is under checklist type, you're gonna say listing under contract. And then that's gonna tell you to give me the contract, to give me the seller's disclosure, this time with the buyer's information filled out and signed, executed, any amendments, etc. Does that make sense?
So we can create the listing first, once we all the forms, we add attach the forms.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Carly,
Any
do
other-
I hit Prosper or Prosper Austin?
Do you have both options?
No, I just saw you did.
No, I do because I'm the broker.
Okay, so we put Prosper.
Yours,
Austin?
you don't have an option. It won't
Okay.
even ask you that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's asking me things. because
Sorry.
I'm the broker. That's okay. It wants things. Here, we'll just do this. No. Oh. If it's, let's say it's new construction, it does want an MLS number. If it's new construction or if it's sold pre-market, just put zeros. And then now it's gonna ask for who's the other side. Don't really do that, but you get the idea.
I don't actually want a first name every time, we just pick whatever.
You can put whatever. I want your client's info.
Right.
The rest of it, I don't care.
Alright.
Because the first thing I'm gonna do, if you're out of town, we have an agent going to Europe next week and she has like 4 transactions in here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go in here and figure out who do I need to call if something goes wrong and she's unreachable. So I definitely want the client's info, just like I make you put it on paragraph 21 of the contract. I want the client's info in here. But beyond that, I don't care. We're doing a lot with Century 21 today. But... Okay, so now I can hit submit. It's going to ask for my commission. It defaulted 3% because when I created the transaction, I said how much is each side getting. So I had said 3%. And so as long as all those numbers look right, you can hit submit. And now it gives me that checklist. And it shouldn't require, I thought I fixed that. So because I gave the general notice wire fraud down here, it's asking for it again up here. I'm trying to get them to fix that. Will you shoot me an email real quick? You can say see below instead of uploading them again. But we'll get those removed. I can't go remove them myself. I have to ask somebody else to do it. So, but that's okay.
Why did we stop using this platform?
Because they lost the ability to connect to our forums. So like Skyslope lost their license for forums and now it's back. It's a,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
it just is. Yeah. So anyways. So now it's back and here we go. Thing to keep in mind that I want to reiterate, or I haven't iterated, so there's no reiteration. All of these, if applicable, means they're required if they apply to your transaction. I don't want to say they're required because then there's a bunch of stuff on here that you don't have, right? But if you did Amendment 1, Amendment 2, and Amendment 3, they are absolutely required to submit to me. If you did, different addendums that aren't on here, whatever it is, if it's part of that transaction, I have to have that paperwork. So it's really important that all gets on here. Does that make sense? So that's the only piece of this that I don't love from a compliance standpoint. I either make it required when it you don't have it, or I say if
I haven't
applicable.
looked yet, but are there training videos on this?
There's a ton.
All right.
Yep. Yep. And Skyslope has some of the best help desk, like you literally, if I had a mouse, right here, you can go online and get them chatting to you in 2 seconds.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yep. Yep. So if you have questions, try them.
Is that 24 hours?
Yep.
But they say that the customer is 24/7. I called them and they got back to me the next day because they were busy.
Oh, did you try chatting?
No, I just
Okay.
wanted to talk to a real person.
Oh, so I've chatted after hours and not had a problem, but I've not tried calling them after hours. I don't know if maybe they
I
have.
called them around 1 p.m.
Hmm.
and then they got back to me next day saying that they are overwhelmed with
No.
clients.
Hmm.
I was wondering if this is the case like all the time. They say 24/7, but
I've never had that issue, but we just started using Skyslope again. When we used it before, we never had that issue. Yeah, I would say next time try chatting. And then in the chat, you can say, I really need to talk to you, and then see if you can get them on the phone.
do you talk with a real person
Mhm,
or like a
mhm.
bot?
No, it's a real person. Okay, what other questions do you guys
Show
have?
once if you've created, like if you didn't do the forms, how you connect,
Oh, okay.
because that I think comes up a lot.
Yes. So like if you, like just go add. So if you mean,
So like if you're working with a client, so in that one, you already did the forms,
Right.
let's say I don't know, for this one. I
like an
guess you wouldn't-
amendment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
Because you're getting it signed somewhere else. Well, I
Oh,
guess you could just email it then, huh? How would you do best?
so if I'm gonna use this for everything, I can go into forms and go to my file. Maybe.
So like for that one, it was a listing, you got an offer. You put it in, well, I guess it would be in forms. I guess an amendment would be an example then, yeah.
Yeah. So if I need a form, so I did that really fast. So we were here and she's like, what if I need to go get an amendment signed? So I'm gonna jump back up, and because I'm using Skyslope as my signature piece, because I've already created it on the other side, it's now on this side. So I created as a listing that went under contract 123 Main Street. It's saying, do you want to go get a form? You need a signature because you forgot the general information notice, or apply a template. Now it's becoming something else and I'm going to apply some template. Like let's say it was your buyer bought it. Now it's a lease listing, right? So you can go apply a new template if you needed to. But I'm going to, because it was my listing, now I have an amendment to negotiate. So I'm going to go grab my PDF of my amendment. We're going to pretend this is an amendment, and it's going to throw it in there. And now I'm going to have it populate. And if I needed to fill it out or do something with it, I'm going to say prepare for signature. And I'm going to say, I need sign as well, because I'm going to add text before my client signs. Does that make sense? Over here in the top left is where I'm going to toggle between my client signing. Because this wasn't a template in there, it doesn't know where he should sign. So I'm saying Fred's going to sign. Did I click it? Yep. Fred's going to sign right there. And when Fred signs, it does a date at his signature, but because this needs an execution date, I'm going to go grab a date and throw it in there. Once you do that, you can hover over it and then move it where you want it to go. But then I am going to say, I don't like this amendment. I am going to, with text, I'm going to strike through their check, right? And then I'm going to do another box right next to it, or not there. Let's say we want this box instead. And I'm going to make it say, you know, the $500 or whatever it is I'm changing, right? But now because I've changed those texts, I now need Fred to go initial those two changes. Click and click and click and click. Everybody follow me? And so now I can hit send. It's going to immediately throw my text down, and then it's going to ask Fred to sign and initial all of that.
You have to put a downloaded PDF in there,
It does require a PDF.
so you'll, all right.
So I grabbed a PDF.
Right.
Like the minute you say upload document, it requires it to be a PDF. All right, any questions on any of that?
You can actually X out certain things on an amendment.
So yeah, the minute, let me do a real one. Let's go back. I don't think I have anything on here that's real. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we do. Well, see the big one. Okay, so I didn't get rid of the first one, I just added to it here. So let's say this legal address was incorrect. That's where I'm gonna go prepare for signature. Yes, we're both signing. You want to strike through or text. I personally like text because it's easier to read. I'm going to strike through or text. Make sure it's me selected. I'm going to strike through or text the wrong information. And then I'm going to do a text right next to it with lot 2 or whatever. And then I'm going to go grab it and put it right next to it. Now that I've made that change, I'm going to make sure that Fred goes and initials next to that change. Make sense? And now I can hit send. And the minute I hit send, it'll fill in the text for me and then go send it to Fred to sign.
And then once it's signed, will it already be in your documents? Or do you have to?
It is. It goes into the documents. Yeah, just like the last
use
one.
that one that was connected.
Right. Yeah, as long as you're connecting them back, you use the same one each side, then they'll all go into your documents tab. All right, guys. Any other questions before I let you all go?
Show again how you transfer, let's say like you do all of this on Dotloop because you know it, and then you want to transfer everything to this
Yep.
one again.
Yep. Let's hit save and exit. I'm gonna go back to Skyslope. And so if it's a transaction, you'll do the create the transaction. I'm just gonna go grab a transaction really quickly. I can't type. Oh, I'm in the wrong. No. Whatever. All right, we're just gonna go grab a transaction. So this is the email address you're gonna email it to. So you're gonna create the transaction and you're gonna get the screen, right? Do you get that? And then this is the email address that you're gonna email it to, and the documents are all gonna come in over here on this side. And so you can, if you send one document at a time, then you'll select the document and assign it, and it's going to say where on that checklist does it go, what's applicable. Or if it's all in one file or in files you need to split, then you'll grab it and you'll say split it. Oop. And I grabbed something that has 3 pages. So I'm going to say page one, let's say it's the information about broker services. And then 2 to 3 is the buyer representation agreement. And then page 3 is the seller's disclosure. Okay, so now it's going to take that one email or that one document and throw it wherever it needs to go. And you just hit split and assign and it does it. I won't do that because this is somebody's real transaction.
Another way to do it would be to download the document from, let's say. if I was
Yeah,
to
you can
download it
save
from
them,
Document
save
and
them to
then
your
just
desktop and then upload them in.
upload it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, where you're gonna upload it is on the checklist. You're just gonna attach. So you'll get attach and upload it
Okay.
and then go through it in there. Yep, absolutely.
And would you be able to edit those documents that you upload from that book, let's say?
So let's say you upload and throw it in and then it got rejected because it's missing an initial. So then you're gonna toggle back up here and go into your forms and go send it off and get a signature there. So once you've created the file's here. So let's say we created Fred. Fred has his 1 to 4 family that we already messed with, but it was missing an initial. So now I can go prepare for signature and say he needs to sign and I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to sign too. And now I'm going to go edit or do whatever I need to do and then he can send it. So yep. Okay, any other questions, guys? Otherwise, I'll let you go. I feel like I lost half of you.
You may have already covered this. I had trouble logging in the zone, but I figured it out. Once you get through your listing and it's in review for your listing documents, then it says in review. So can I not push
Nope.
accepted contract until that's approved?
Correct.
So is the best, so how often do those get reviewed?
So they get reviewed right away. The rule of thumb is the minute you take a listing, even if it's not an MLS yet, you send us the paperwork so we can review and accept it, especially because offers are coming in so quick sometimes. That gives us a couple days at least to get it accepted. If you're hurrying, like, because we're just moving things over, shoot Tracy a quick email and she'll do it real quick. Yep. I say that though, she's out sick right now.
Oh, that's
So,
Or not to.
you can always CC me on it and then if I know Tracy's out, I can do it. But, okay, any other questions? That was a good question. And, yeah, of course. All right, guys, online, I hope you got all that. I feel like you guys were way too quiet.
Me too.
Oh,
Got lots
I
of
know.
notes.
good, okay. Well, and this was recorded. Somehow I've lost the little tab for it, but,
Okay.
so it will be put on YouTube shortly, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, do you know how to get that thing back that I closed?
Hold on.
Should be able to, like I shrunk it.
I know. You have to make it bigger? No, it shouldn't. I can mess with it. Yeah, can you click and drag?
Okay, can we just close the darn Zoom out?
Pull that up. Yeah, what happened? That's weird. Nope,
There
there
it
you go.